Hello YouTube, ValleyGirl5678 here. Please excuse my subtly nasally voice. I'm getting over a itty bitty little cold. Today I'm going to be reviewing this new Allie X album, Girl with No Face. This project follows 2020's Cape God, which is a pretty good pop album with some iconic, incredible tracks on it, such as Susie Save Your Love, Feet Mitski, Madam X, and Fresh Laundry. This album, Girl with No Face, is very 80s Halloween vibes, down to spooky / ghostly ad-libs and harmonies across the entire album. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised this was not released in October. Speaking of the very Halloween vibes across the entire project, this album is actually so cohesive that it's slightly to its detriment, as other than melodic and lyrical differences, most of these songs sound pretty much the same. That is, however, not to say that these songs aren't impressive and smart and well made in their own right, because they are. They're just not all that different from one another. And perhaps that's because this album does sort of feel like a confessional of sorts, a look back on her career so far and what it kind of says about herself as a person and her relationship to herself now and in the past. So in a way, this album does kind of exist in an ether of her personhood. The first track, Weird World, very much brings you into Allie's weird world. That includes the synthy, spooky, sonic landscape of the album, and arguably her as an artist and person. Lyrically as well, it brings you into her artistic realm, down to the use of some German on this track, which relates to her use of French on track 4, John and Jonathan, which is a super bold track about the experience of being a female pop star with a predominantly gay male fan base. Dear John and Jonathan, what am I to you? But how will I know if they care for me? Je ne sais quoi. I mean, she's touching on something very real here that I've actually been thinking a lot about recently. This sort of idea of gay male misogyny, like women, and especially women celebrities, being objects to them just like they are for straight men, but instead of the objectification being purely for a sexual matter, they're objects to them for entertainment. I think this is something that a lot of pop stars deal with, to be honest, especially nowadays with the sort of like Charlie XCX, Kim Petras, female pop artists that are like very clearly making music for the gays. And you know, Charlie has kind of touched on this here and there, but I think it's pretty like sick and based of Allie to like put it in a song and put that song out. The opening track, Weird World, arguably connects with every song on this album, but interestingly enough, it arguably connects the most with the closing track on this album, Truly Dreams. Like, they seem to be in direct reference to each other almost. For example, we have the line in Weird World, I used to be a dream girl, but the world interfered. And then, of course, like, the entirety of the song, Truly Dreams, where she proclaims that she is and will always be a dreamer, because it's the sole thing that keeps her alive. So there's obviously not just comparison between these two tracks, but like a dialogue of sorts. A dialogue that seems to point to the overarching idea of the album being a sort of proclamation of her inability to separate her personhood from her identity as and experience of being an artist. Truly Dreams also sort of touches on this idea that is the main theme of track 8, You Slept on Me, of Allie being underrated, which she absolutely is, with the line, I'm nobody, I can never die. Because as long as she still has dreams, because she's not reaching the level of artistic honor and respect that she feels she deserves, yet at the same time feels she will never get, she'll never die, because dreaming is what keeps her alive. So as long as she's slept on, she'll never die. Pretty genius, honestly. She absolutely speaks straight facts in a very gutsy way on You Slept With Me, just like she does on John and Jonathan. Further, these two tracks are connected because of the fact that on both tracks she is mainly speaking to people that engage with her art. And it's very understood generally and clearly by her because of the track John and Jonathan that the majority of people that engage with her art are gay men, which makes the last line of You Slept on Me super iconic. And actually the rest of the track is super great lyrically as well. Like, she's kind of on her metaphor shit on this track, with lines like, drinking your Sprite, wasting your time and mine, you've been eating Krispy Kreme, you've been praising Paula Deen, kind of claiming that instead of praising and standing her and her art that is artistically healthier for the consumer, a lot of people that do engage with her end up consuming more and praising more bad art that is ultimately bad for them. The line, this beat is hard but not hard enough, won't somebody slap me in my face and make it sting, not only references the line on track 6, Hardware Software, I want to kick and scream and shout like a bee sting, but is a direct reference to the track that comes in between the two, track 7, Black Eye. That to me is very much Allie's version of Lana's Ultraviolence, He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss vibes. Cue my playlist, He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss. My brain is actually kind of imploding right now, because this idea of He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss is a metaphor in itself. So Allie kind of referencing this idea is a metaphorical reference. Yet there's a deeper metaphor Metaphor in Black Eye. That is the double entendre of give me that beat. Beat like music and beat like beat. I am a modern dog. Collar crime, year on a leash. It makes a nasty mind. I'm sorry, Mr. Fister. If I bite, it's just spite. Okay, go off, I guess. But behind all these savage lyrics and metaphor and all that is ultimately a song about trauma and its aftermath. It's a very smart, complex song. Another song on this album that reminds me of / feels like Allie's version of insert song here is Galena, which strongly gives me Lacey by Olivia Rodrigo / Amelie by Gracie Abrams vibes. Both of which songs I think about individually and in relation to one another at least 3 times a week. Those girlies really said, let's throw the sapphics a bone, but a small one, a subtle one that's so easy yet difficult to read at the same time. They love that shit. And ladies, you're right. Metaphor is still very present on this track, Galena, as well as on Lacey and Amelie, to be honest, as these characters of Galena or Lacey or Amelie are ultimately metaphors for deeper problems within these artists' lives and experiences. My 2 favorite tracks on this album are track 3, Off With Her Tits, and Staying Power, but for different reasons. Staying Power is lyrically my favorite track on the album because the lyrics are just straightforward enough that you kind of don't have to do a lot of digging or analyzing to get to the theme of the track and what she's kind of saying, but it's done in a very smart, cheeky, and catchy way, and I love that. And notably, this track relates to Truly Dreams and You Slept On Me with this idea of her having staying power. Off With Her Tits I love so much, mostly because of the track melodically and production-wise, as it is absolutely the witchiest, spookiest track that you can absolutely vogue to. But it also has a pretty sick subject matter, as the tits that Allie is referring to, you know, being off with, are her own. Because in the verses, she's talking about her uncomfortable experience growing and having tits, leading her to, ironically, absolutely mother, a play on Off With Her Head with Off With Her Tits. And since she is a metaphor queen, clearly, I do wonder if this is actually in a more deep way about her supposed asexuality, like off with the main part of her body that reminds others and her that she is a sexual object in the world. But Allie puts her foot down and says, I'll never be a lady. Why make me feel a fool? So yeah, off with her motherfucking tits boots house down. And very conveniently, for the sake of the thematic development of this video, the other track where Allie kind of refers to herself in the third person. Is it the third person? Is it the 4th person? Is it the 7th person? I don't know. You know what I mean. It is track 2, the track right before Off With Her Tits, Girl With No Face, the title track, where on the verses she kind of tells you about this girl with no face, to reveal in the choruses very blatantly that she is the girl with no face. So this album is super cohesive in all respects, to the point of it all sort of blending together. But I almost think that's kind of the point, as this album is almost like a musical memoir in a sense. So it is an absolute slay, but it's a slightly underwhelming slay, a slightly boring slay. So I'm gonna give this album a 7. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and remember to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify, all linked below in the description. Make sure you're keeping up with my Song of the Week series on YouTube Shorts, which comes out every Friday, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!